Tonight, Donald Trump injured at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. Terrifying moments as shots were fired.
Take a look at what happened.
The former president rushed to safety in what's being called an assassination attempt. Extensive coverage straight ahead. An extremely aggressive inferno in Newfoundland and Labrador.
From what was a 600-hectare fire to an over 10,000-hectare fire.
As thousands of Canadians are forced out of their homes. Plus, a summer slump in the real estate market.
It hasn't been easy. There's been days where it's like, okay, maybe we should just take the house off the market.
Would-be homebuyers still staying on the sidelines.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, Todd Vanderhayden.
Good evening. Donald Trump injured today at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania in what's being called an assassination attempt. Trump giving a speech and then terrifying moments as shots rang out. Secret Service agents rushing in to protect him. Trump later saying he felt a bullet that pierced, quote, right above my ear, ripping through the skin. Watch this video.
Take a look at what happened.
Photos showing blood on the right side of Trump's face and his ear. Multiple Secret Service agents jumped on Trump to shield him. Once he was back on his feet, surrounded and protected, Trump was quickly ushered off the stage, pumping his fist repeatedly to supporters and saying the words, "Fight on," as he left the area. Trump is safe, being treated for minor injuries. The shooter is dead, and at least one person at the rally was killed and others seriously injured. Our coverage begins with our Washington bureau chief, Joy Malbon.
I really see something.
The former president had just begun his remarks. You hear pops, loud bangs, gunshots. The former president grabs his right ear and goes down. Move! Move! Secret Service surround him, quickly rushing Donald Trump off the stage. Guns drawn. Trump appears dazed.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head. It's bloody.
Blood on his face, Secret Service shielding him. Trump defiantly raising his fist, mouthing the words, "Fight, fight." Rushed to safety, his campaign says he is fine and being checked out at a local medical facility. What you don't see is the suspected shooter. Secret Service reporting the gunman and a spectator at the rally are dead. 2 other people were critically injured. This eyewitness is a doctor.
The man beside me suffered a gunshot wound to the head, was instantly killed, fell to the bottom of the bleachers. It was rather chaotic at that point because half the people were looking because they thought it was fireworks.
Even though everyone attending goes through metal detectors, Secret Service is reporting the shooter was on a low roof outside the perimeter. A frightening scene and disbelief.
I'm definitely shook up, but I'm okay. Yeah, and Trump was talking, watching him. I heard pop, pop, pop. I thought it was like a cap gun. And my son's like, "God, get down." And next thing you know, everybody around us was down.
You know, this shows you how much hate and hostility is in our world today. This is not a good thing. We need to all come together.
This comes as there's growing anger in America, political divisions, violent rhetoric. The FBI warning, fearing a lone wolf attempt in such a heated election campaign. President Joe Biden from his home in Delaware.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this.
Tonight, in a statement, Donald Trump offered his condolences to the family of the spectator killed and the people who were badly injured, describing how the bullet hit his ear and how he felt it ripping through his skin, and thanking the Secret Service for their fast response. Todd?
CTV's Joy Malbon. All right, let's go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where the Republican National Convention is set to begin on Monday. That's where we find CNN's Julia Benbrook with the latest on the former president's condition and obviously the politics too. Julia.
Well, and Trump will be here in Milwaukee in just a matter of days to officially accept the Republican nomination for president. It's important to note he's not just a former president, he is the presumptive Republican nominee. And this was a very scary night at a campaign event in Philadelphia. You heard multiple bangs. You see the former president drop to the floor. He's helped up by security, and there is blood on his face when he gets up, and then they got him off of the stage and into an SUV. His team said quickly that he was fine and that he was going to a medical facility there in the area. Now, we have heard from the former president via a Truth Social post. He wrote, quote, "Nothing is known at this time about the shooter, who is dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong in that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then that this was happening. God bless America." Now, again, he went to a medical facility there in Philadelphia. Lots of well wishes are coming in for the former president. People saying they're thinking of him, praying for him. According to law enforcement officials, the shooting is being investigated as an attempted assassination. Lots more to learn, lots of details coming out, but that's what we know now.
All right, Julia Benbrook joining us from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where the Republicans kick off their national convention on Monday. Thanks for this, Julia. Let's bring in U.S. political analyst Eric Ham for his take. Eric, an unbelievable situation we're following. What does it mean?
It means that gun violence in the United States remains an epidemic, and violence and bloodshed are now the main discourses politically in the United States.
We heard from President Biden condemning what happened, Eric, and issuing a statement that reads in part, he's grateful to hear that Trump is doing well, that he's praying for Trump and his family and everybody at the rally, and there's no place for this kind of violence in America. We have to unite as one nation to condemn it. The Republican National Convention is coming up on Monday, as you know, and we're hearing calls for Americans to try to come together at this moment.
Yes, that will remain to be seen. But you're right. What we're seeing play out is the political discourse in this country has certainly changed after this assassination attempt, and it will continue to play out that way.
What does it mean for Trump?
It means now Trump has a tremendous responsibility before him. He is now the victim of political violence, and now he has to speak on that violence. And what he says can either continue to tamp down political violence and discourse in this country or ramp it up.
Yeah, what do you think will happen as a result in terms of how Trump will react?
I suspect that he will act or react defiantly, as we have always seen him do. The hope is that we see him as a presidential candidate attempt to move the nation not only forward, but move the nation higher.
We did see him as he was leaving the rally, sort of fist bumping into the air and trying to send a message to his supporters, Eric, saying, fight on, even as he was bleeding from the side of his face. What did you make of that?
I thought it was an ex-president who was attempting to reassure his base that he is still with us, but also to the fact that he was, of course, charging them up. You never know what signal that sends, and I think it only could potentially exacerbate the growing polarization that we're seeing play out in the United States right now.
Do you think, as a result of what we saw today, Eric, that there will be people who will step back from that, some of the anger, some of the polarization, and think twice?
That is the hope, that not only will President Biden, but also former President Donald Trump will join him, not only in condemning the violence, but also seeking to lead the nation with their voices to show another way to engage in political rhetoric across the country.
All right, Eric, thank you very much. Let's bring in our chief political correspondent, Vashy Capello, who is following this story closely and joins us now from Ottawa. Vashy, how much of a game changer do you think this will be?
I think, Todd, when you reference that image of the former president turning to his supporters as the Secret Service led him off the stage and kind of, putting his fist up in the air, like that, in my view, is the defining image of this campaign so far. As Eric pointed out, he is the victim of political violence, and whatever side of the aisle you're on, that is hard to look at as anything other than a game changer. I think, just like Eric and you mentioned, I am interested to see the way in which Trump navigates this going forward. But I do think, just with Milwaukee coming up, I'm headed there to cover it for the next 4 days. All eyes will be on to what degree this ends up, buoying, I think, support for him. We're coming off 2 of the worst weeks for President Joe Biden, thanks to his debate performance, which has seen Trump, already benefit from in public opinion polling. Not to reduce this to something like that, but I think that overall, this punctuates those 2 weeks for former President Trump and creates an entirely different dynamic in this campaign. And I think also you've got to wonder about security for not just him going forward, but what happens with the Secret Service, Joe Biden. There are going to be a ton of questions about sort of how that ends up playing out going forward as well. So much to keep our eyes on in the coming days.
Our chief political correspondent, Vashy Capello, is joining us from the Capitol tonight. Thank you for this, Vashy. And we heard from President Biden. We're also hearing from former U.S. presidents, including Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter. They're all saying they are glad that Donald Trump is okay, and all condemning political violence. And Canadian leaders expressing their shock as well. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who, of course, has met Donald Trump at all kinds of international summits, saying this, quote, "I'm sickened by the shooting at former President Trump. It cannot be overstated. Political violence is never acceptable. My thoughts are with former President Trump, those at the event, and all Americans." And from the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, this, quote, "I condemn in the strongest of terms the attempted murder of former President Donald Trump." All right, and stay with us here on CTV and CTV News Channel as we track all the latest developments on that story as they come in. In our country, thousands of Canadians in Labrador forced out of their homes overnight and through today after an evacuation order was issued due to a major wildfire. The order issued on Friday for Labrador City, population close to 10,000 people, and about 2,000 people living in the nearby town of Wabush are being told they may need to leave at a moment's notice. People are being told to drive 6 hours eastward to the town of Happy Valley Goose Bay to seek temporary shelter. It comes as the fire has itself exploded in size in just the past 2 days, leaving communities across Labrador struggling to cope. CTV's Christina Tenalia has more.
An orange sky blankets Labrador City, picturesque for a video, but a scene that's unsafe. So, late Friday, the 9,600 residents who call this city home were told to leave. And fast.
An extremely aggressive inferno.
Changing conditions meant a wildfire that was contained earlier this week suddenly spread.
The combination allowed for this fire to move from what was a 600-hectare, fairly controlled fire to an over 10,000 hectare fire.
Premier Fury warned the fire flamed 21 kilometers in 4 hours. And so began the evening crawl, a drive about 6 hours east to Happy Valley Goose Bay, where today the Premier was on hand at a local arena-turned-evacuation center, announcing plans for water bombers to attack the blaze, hoping to split the fire in half.
Hi again, Mayor Labrador City.
After a hectic 24 hours, Labrador City's mayor seemed optimistic.
Everything seems to be going fairly well.
Her frequent desk-side updates, streamed online, have kept residents informed.
And within the community, if you're not already done so, you need to leave the community.
Telling residents earlier that it would be highly unlikely that they'd be able to return home anytime soon. Which is why the town of Happy Valley Goose Bay has, for the second time in a month, welcomed its neighbors with open arms.
We have volunteers here in every facet. We have people opening their homes. We have Airbnbs that are charging people. It's been incredible. Like our community is absolutely, I can't speak, any higher than I can for my town.
Labrador City is anticipating the arrival of 12 water bombers tomorrow, with the goal to have 80 support personnel on the ground by midweek. And as for the neighboring town of Wabush, they remain under a potential evacuation alert. Todd.
CTV's Christina Tenalia. A man who moved millions, American celebrity fitness guru Richard Simmons, has died. With big hair and short shorts, passion and pizzazz, his high-energy workout series, Sweatin' to the Oldies, made him a cultural icon. Those weight loss videos came from a personal place. Simmons battled childhood obesity, becoming a passionate advocate for public health.
I do not want any child in America to have my childhood.
In later years, he avoided the spotlight. Simmons was found unresponsive in his home in Hollywood. He had just celebrated his 76th birthday. Here's a question. Can artificial intelligence create art? And if so, who owns that art? That is the question that Canadian courts will now have to decide. A group tied to the University of Ottawa wants to ensure that only humans can be considered authors. CTV's Colton Prale reports.
A philosophical brain teaser is now a legal quandary. Canada's courts are being asked to decide whether or not AI-created art is subject to copyright laws, and if only humans should be seen as artists.
And if you view AI as just a tool, then the human using that tool might be entitled to copyright.
Currently, there are dozens of lawsuits against AI companies. Most focus on using artists' work to train the models without their permission. American record giants allege music companies are turning classics like this
Goodness gracious, great balls of fire
into eerily familiar copies.
Goodness gracious, great balls of fire.
There's a variety of reasons why it's extremely concerning, not just the financial aspect of it, but also the aspect of the author's name, their tone, their moral, and just their rights to say yes or no to something.
Legal experts in Canada say our copyright laws are based on the exercise of skill and judgment.
AI systems are technology, they're tech systems. They don't have legal status, they don't have legal persona.
Parliament spent months seeking expert input for policy decisions around its AI laws, Bill C-27. While artists wait for that legislation to pass, this week the EU officially launched the AI Act, forcing companies to be transparent about what sources are used to create content.
That's at least the purpose of this European legislation, and we'll see if other countries think it's a good idea to do the same.
It will be months before the Canadian courts decide whether or not AI can be considered an artist in its own right. But creators say decisions need to be made fast if they want to keep pace with the tools mimicking their art. Todd.
All right, thanks very much, Colton. In the Middle East today, Israeli forces tried to assassinate a top Hamas commander in Gaza. The health ministry there says the airstrike killed at least 90 Palestinians and wounded hundreds more. Israel says the target was Hamas's military chief, Mohammed Daif, the mastermind of the October 7th terrorist attack on Israel. Also today, thousands of Israeli protesters marched on the Prime Minister's office in Jerusalem after a 4-day trek from Tel Aviv. They're calling for the release of hostages still being held in Gaza. Coming up for us, a slow summer for home sales.
It hasn't been easy. There's been days where it's like, okay, maybe we should just take the house off the market.
Why many potential home buyers are waiting on the sidelines instead of jumping into the market. To the Canadian housing market now. Some analysts had expected a surge in home sales after the Bank of Canada's recent interest rate cut, but that has not happened. CTV's Jeremy Sharon explains why.
A stubborn spring in real estate has spurred a scaling back of expectations for Canada's housing market this year.
Lots of listings showed up, but the buyers stayed in hibernation mode. And so when you've got sort of a dud of a spring market, you've got to scale back your numbers.
A new report from the Canadian Real Estate Association projects more than 470,000 properties will trade hands this year, a 6.1% increase from 2023, but down from April's forecasted gain of 10.5%.
The challenge with sellers right now is that there's climbing inventory, which puts pressure on them, right? There's more choice for buyers.
You're praying anyone that walks through that door could be a potential offer.
Cindy Hill is feeling the effects of a slower than projected market. Her property has been listed for a year. She's had to drop the price several times, even prepared to take a loss to get her Kemptville, Ontario home sold.
It hasn't been easy. There's been days where it's like, okay, maybe we should just take the house off the market and wait. Let's just see maybe where life is going, interest rates are going.
Those rates are the key factor, experts say. Fewer projected cuts by the Bank of Canada this year played a role in dampening market forecasts, and the rate at which the cuts keep coming will play a major role too.
It's a matter of timing, right? Do they do it all by next summer, or does it take till 2027? That's what's going to pace the recovery in the housing market.
And that's what buyers are watching and waiting for too.
We just will see it gradually recover. And I think that that's what the Bank of Canada is trying to, truly in a way control, right? Is to make sure that there's no aggressive buying.
Now, the Bank of Canada's next rate announcement is set for July 24th, and it's expected any further potential cuts could help slowly bring potential buyers back into the market. Jeremy Sherrill, CTV News, Ottawa.
Coming up after the break, Canada at Copa America. A heartbreaking finish to the Copa America tournament tonight for the Canadian men's soccer team. They lost to Uruguay on penalties. They were playing for bronze, but how about Canada's first goal, though? This brilliant scissor kick. And on the tennis court, a tense finish to the women's Wimbledon final at the All England Club.
It's a Czech fairy tale.
Barbora Krejcikova eventually overpowered Jasmine Paolini in 3 sets to capture the crown. Tomorrow, the men's championship match hits center court. After the break, taking the leap of a lifetime. Finally for us, the adrenaline rush of jumping out of an airplane can be exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. Well, today is World Skydiving Day, and thrill seekers are attempting to set a world record. CTV's Dylan Dyson explains.
Hands in, chin up. Wait for me to get us ready. You'll feel ready, set, go.
Adam Favero is looking to add his name to the book of world records.
I get right jacked up adrenaline-wise right before and during. It's great.
He's one of many taking part in the world record-setting attempt at airborne Petawawa Saturday.
Basically, it's number of jumps done in a single day all over the world. Solo jumper, student, whatever you are, and actually a tandem skydive counts for 2 jumps.
Others taking the leap of faith, skydiving for the very first time.
I was excited and did pretty well till I was driving here, and then I was getting a little nervous. But no, I'm quite excited.
Airborne Petawawa says they jump from 12,500 feet high and free fall for about a minute before pulling their tandem parachutes at roughly 6,500 feet. They take about another 5 minutes sailing through the air before they land back on the ground. This world record has never been attempted before. Airborne Petawawa is hoping they can add 50 jumps to the official tally.
It was great, man. Blue sky, soft landing. I just feel happy, bro. Peaceful.
You can't even describe the free fall. And then when the chute went out, it just slowed down and everything was beautiful.
Awesome! Dylan Dyson, CTV News, Petawawa.
And that's it for us. I'm Todd Vanderheiden. Be sure to watch CTV News channel for all the latest on our breaking news story about an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Thank you for watching tonight, and we'll see you again right here tomorrow.